Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Maseches Avodah Zarah Daf Mem Gimel. We begin 11 lines off the top of the Amid, Tanu Rabbanon. So, as we learned yesterday, a fellow's walking down the street, notices an item with an image on it, an image of a sun, of a moon, or a darkain, this sort of serpent, snake / dragon type of symbol. All these are problematic because they're indicative of Avodah Zarah association. So the concern is that this item with the symbol is being used as an idol, as an Avodah Zarah, where they worship, they pray, they subject themselves to the powers which these symbols represent. So what exactly is the darkain? Tanu Rabbanan, we have learned in a brayso. Ezehu tzuras darkain. How exactly would you describe the image of the darkain? Piresh Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, he says it has to look as follows. It has to be this like snake, serpent-like image, but it also has to look a little bit exotic. Kol sheyesh leitzitsin, it has these fins or these hairs, bein praka, between its sections, between its, right? Machvi Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Asi pointed and explained this to mean ben pirkei tzavar, between the sections of its neck. So this specific symbol indicates Avodah Zarah. Amar Chama bar Chanina, halacha k'Reb Shimon ben Elazar, that's in fact the halacha that it has to look this way. Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Reb Shimon Levi. It so happens that one time I was walking down the road, Pamachas, Hayisim Mahalech, Achar Rabbi Elazar HaKapar Baribi, after the great Rabbi Elazar HaKapar. Baribi, Rashi says, means Adam Gadol, a great man. So the great Rabbi Elazar HaKapar. B'derech, on the road, Umotza Sham Tabas, and I see that he discovers this ring lying on the floor with an image on it, with a problematic image. Tzuras dark, and it had this dragon emblem on the ring. So instead of just picking it up and walking away, which would be asur because it's presumed to be Avodah Zarah, listen to what he did. So first he encountered a young guy, underage, and so he didn't really say anything to him. But then, as soon as he notices an adult guy walking by, he turns to the guy and says, Batla, can you please negate, be mevatel this Avodah Zarah? As we learned yesterday, a guy can be mevatel Avodah Zarah. He can say, look, it's worthless, it's meaningless, I'm rendering it obsolete, in which case it becomes mutar. So he asked the guy to do it, and he wouldn't cooperate. V'loi batla. Story, gave him a slap, a batla, and he listened. So now the item was no longer Avodah Zarah, and he was able to take it home with him, the Rebbe Elazar. Shmaminot. We learn no less than 3 halachas from this episode. Number 1, a guy has the ability to negate his own idol, his friend's idol, like in this case, where the ring wasn't really fashioned by him, it was some random ring on the floor. A guy can negate that. He has the power to be mevatel. Ushmamina, furthermore, why did he have to wait for an adult to walk by? Because only a guy of age has a true understanding and sort of an appreciation for what's going on. He understands what is Avodah Zarah, what's done with it, what's its value, and he can go negate it. Right? If you have the appreciation, then you can counter it. But a youngster had no appreciation, had no understanding. Hence, he could not be mevatel. Yodeya betiv, only one who appreciates the essence of the Avodah Zarah, and the items and things that are used to serve the Avodah Zarah, basically he understands the topic on hand, he can be mevatel, he can negate. But this young boy, but the young one who has no understanding of what's going on, he can't be mevatel. That's why an adult was required. And thirdly, we learn even if the guy is forced to do the bittul, as per this story, it works. Megadav bar Rabbi Chanina dismissed the story. He had a kasha on the story. V'leslei the Rabbi Lezer Akapa Baribi. Does not Rabbi Lezer Akapa hold of the Mishnah, the Brisa, which says that when something's sitting, on the road, we presume the owner has given up on it. He was meyayesh. Hadasanya hamatzal manhari. So a fellow sees a lion running away with an item, with an animal, and he wrests it away from the lion. Umin adoyiv, or from a bear. Umin anamr, from a leopard. So he salvages somebody else's item that was being carted away by these dangerous animals. The owner certainly had no chance of getting it back, right? Umin agayis, or from the troops. Umin anor, or from gushing river. Umizita shal yam, from an overflowing high tide, sea. Umish lulisa shal nar, likewise a flooding river. Hamoitze besrato, he finds an item out on the highway, uplatya gedola, on a big plaza. Anywhere where the public is milling. So basically, the owner has no hopes of getting it back. You find that it's yours. You know why? Because the owner is presumed to have given up on it. So why bother being mevatel this ring? Why worry about the Avodah Zarah aspect of it? It's no longer owned. It's hefker. The owner just gave up on it. Says the Gemara, yeah. Amar Abaye, that's true. She gave up on getting back the actual ring. Misure or misore mimiyash. Did he give up on the power of the ring? Meaning, the owner, wherever he is still considering it Avodah Zarah. He never canceled that element of it. You know why? Mema Amar, he's figuring to himself, I know I lost the ring, but hopefully, either a guy finds it, he'll worship it. He'll maintain it as Avodah Zarah. Even if a Jew finds it, he'll smell a good deal when he sees it. He sees it expensive Avodah Zarah, he'll sell it to the guy. He doesn't know that we're not allowed to, right? Deal with Avodah Zarah. I did the Demei Yikar, since it's an expensive item, he'll sell it to the first guy that comes around. The guy will continue serving it. So, just because he was miyayish, he gave up on it, doesn't mean he was mevatel it. In which case, it still maintains its Avodah Zarah status, and therefore Blaza Akapar to find a guy and force him to be mevatel. Not Hassam. This takes us to another aspect of this topic, which focuses on a Mishnah Maseches Rosh Hashanah. So in the old days, they would establish the new month based on testimony, on edus offered by these witnesses who have sighted the new moon. So now when they came to Rabbi Gamliel, who was the head of the Bezdin, instead of cross-examining them and confusing them and getting them, he would simplify it by having these models, so to speak, these images of various cuts of the moon, various slivers. And he would show them, look, did you see A, did you see B? Tell me exactly what it looked like. This way he can confirm that in fact their testimony is to be relied upon and genuine. Tanan Hassam, the Mishnah describes it like this. Dumus, tsuros, he had these forms, these figures, these models, levanos, various, arcs of the moon, different variations. Hoyloi, l'Rabbi Gamliel had this, Bal Yosei, up on the second floor, betavla, it was on a tray, bakoisel, affixed to the wall, and he would use it to show the Eidim, Shebehen Mara, he would use it to display these various models, Esedyotes, to unlearned lay people, and he would simplify the questioning process by just pointing to the thing and say, look, was it this that you saw, or this? Or kazer. End of story. Question is, how is this allowed? How could one fashion these miniature models of the moon? Umishori, is that allowed? The pasuk says, "Lo sasun iti." Don't fashion something which is with me, Hashem says, right? And we learn one may not model after the celestial bodies, like the sun and the moon. One cannot imitate these entities that serve Hashem. Amar Abaye. That doesn't apply to the sun and the moon. Torah only disallows only those types of entities that can be actually copied in their actual size, like elements of the Beis Hamikdash. But sun and the moon, you can't replicate the actual size, right? Virtually impossible, right? So even if it's a miniature to scale size or a drawing, it doesn't matter. That's okay. Kedesani, as the Bryce explains, lo yasa adam bias. When one builds his house, he should not make that structure tavnis heichel with the same dimensions as the heichel of the Beis Hamikdash, achsadra, or an anteroom, an entry area, tavnis ulam, the same dimensions as the ulam, which was the anteroom to the heichel, or chatzah. When he makes his courtyard, he should not model it after tavnis azara. Or when he makes his table, shulchan, it can't be tavnis shulchan of the Beis Hamikdash. Menorah makes a candelabra. Tavnis menorah can't be the same size as the menorah. Aval oisa hu oisa shel hey v'shel vav v'shel ches, but he can choose to make a menorah of 5, 6, or 8 pipes v'shel zayin l'yasa, but not one of 7, as per the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. Afilu shel shaminei matris. So 7 is not allowed, even if he chooses to make it of silver, of copper, as opposed to gold, as was in the Mikdash. That's also asur. Why, says Rashi? Because technically, even a silver or copper menorah would be kosher for the Beis Hamikdash, as learned in the Maseches Menachos. So that's also called an imitation of the real one. So as long as it's metal, it's a problem. But let's say wood, that wouldn't be a problem, because wood would not be suitable for the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Yezir B'Yida Eimer, Afshal Eitz Lo Yas, even wood cannot be made. Why? Because we find once in history, when they were unable to afford something better, they made it of wood. Keder she'asu beis chashmonai, the Yidden, the beis chashmonai, the time the Yevanim, who brought them to the point of destitution, they were poor, and they were forced to make their menorah of wood. Rashi says they took away all the kalim, so they had to just start from scratch, and they didn't even have metal. So apparently a wooden menorah is acceptable. Likewise, you can't go ahead and make your 7-piped wooden menorah at home, because it constitutes an imitation. Amr Loi, the Chacham responded, it's incorrect, it wasn't wood. Maybe it appeared like wood, but it wasn't wood. Wood would never be acceptable, never be kosher in the Beis Hamikdash. Misham Raya, could you prove from there? Shvudin shel barzl, they were really made of iron poles, mechupen with bats, coated with lead, and perhaps that gave it the wood look, and that's why you were thinking that it's wood, but it really wasn't. It was made of metal. Hashiru, when they were able to afford more, Asam shel kesef, they upgraded it to silver. Chazer Hashiru, and they got more wealthy. Asam shel zav, they upgraded it to gold. Okay, so bottom line is, according to Abaye's pshat, a model of the sun and the moon, even to scale, is not an issue, because it's only us to actually replicate the actual size and dimension of the original item, which is not very pertinent to a sun and the moon. Really, says the Gemara, that's okay. If you're replicating a shama, something which serves Hashem, as long as it's not in the actual size of the original, that's okay. Vatani, we have a brisa, that's also not okay. Don't make the ones with me. That's the pasuk, and it means you can't imitate. You can't replicate kidmus shamashai, something which is a model. It's modeled after the shamasim of the up in the skies. Apparently, even a model of the sun and the moon is asr. No. It's not the sun and the moon. It is referring to something very specific. Like asr Torah. The Torah only disallows if you're going to make something which has that four-faced. It's a four-faced entity. It's part of the Merkava system, and the highest spheres, the holiest of the holiest, abodes in Shemayim. There's something called this Merkava, the Chayis of the Merkava, which Chayis HaKodesh, Rashi says, which has 4 faces to it. A shoyer, Rashi is on the top line, Arba Panim, Pnei shoyer. One side is a face of a shoyer, of a bull. V'adam, the other side is the face of a human. V'aryeh, we have a lion. V'nesher, and an eagle. L'chaya achas, in one single entity. Dugmas Chayis HaKodesh, which resembles the idea of Chayis HaKodesh. V'chsiv iti hashruyas etzli. So bottom line is, l'sasun iti is only referring to this very specific design. As the Gemara continues on the top line, only bans elabidmus dalad panim b'diadod. If you make it this quadruple form, all in one. But if you're going to separate them, and certainly if it's just going to be a sun or a moon, that's okay. Elamiata parts of adam chudei tishtri. So according to you, if one makes a bust of a person, of a human face, on its own, without the other added elements, that would be okay. Alamatani, but the Brisa says you can't. Kol partzuf is mutar chutzim parts of adam. You can make all kinds of faces, animals, but not people. Why? Amar Rabbi Beider Yeshua. He says, "Mi pirkei Rabbi Yeshua Shmieli." I heard this from the lecture of Rabbi Yeshua. It's based on a pasuk. Lo yisasun iti. Once again, the same pasuk. Lo yisasun iti tells you lo yisasun oisi. You can't make an image which resembles the manner in which I reveal myself to my prophets in their nevuah, in their dream, where Hashem sort of appears like a person. So that face, that symbol, that image, would be asur to make. So even just a human form is asur if it's a 3-dimensional. The Rambam says only 3-dimensional, like a bust, would be asur. So that's basically a teretz, right? Right? The kasha was, well, a parts of Adam is just one element of that quadruple entity. Why is it asur? The answer is, there's a special pasuk regarding a parts of a person, because that is how Hashem reveals Himself to His neviim. You don't want to get things confused. You don't want to make that, and that's what the pasuk means, like sasun iti. Ask the Gemara, Oshar Shamasim Ishari? What about other, servants, so to speak, celestial bodies and powers, malachim, that would be okay? Like the sun and the moon, that would be okay, according to what you're saying? But the Brisa disallows that too. Loisasun iti, and this Brisa means, Loisasun kedmus shamashai hamasham shalafonu. Remember, we can't replicate any of those shamashim in the upper spheres. You go in Ifanim, all types of malachim, usrafim, b'chayis HaKodesh, malachas shares. So it includes these as well. No, again, it's only limited to these, who live in the upper spheres of the heavens, but not the sun and the moon, which dwell in the lower abodes of the heaven. Only this allows, Ela Shamas, Shemother Elyon, the Shamashim that live in the upper spheres, the Yafanim, the Srafim, etc. Really? But the other celestial bodies found in the lower spheres of the heaven, that would be okay to replicate and to draw. Vatani, the Brisa here, is going to disallow that too. Asher b'shamayim. The pasuk says, don't make these idols, don't make these pictures, don't make these models of things that are to be found b'shamayim imal, v'asher ba'aretz mitachas. I'm just reading the pasuk. V'asher b'mayim mitachas la'aretz. So we break down the pasuk. B'shamayim imal means asher b'shamayim means l'rabis chamo levana v'kachav mazalois. There you go, sun and the moon, stars. The word mimal, that covers the rabbis malachi asharis. You can replicate the malachim. So apparently, it's problematic. Sadra from Gamliel have those models of the moon in his bezdin. Says the Gemara Kitanya when the Brisa refers to the stars and the moon, la'oivdam, it's warning us against serving and worshipping them and considering them to be our God. But just an image, a picture, a model, that wouldn't be a problem. Asks the Gemara, so if that's what the Brisa is teaching, keep away from worshipping these things. Why are we singling out the sun and the moon? Even a little snail would be usher. anything. If the issue is serving and worshipping, even a small snail. In a chanami, you're right. And there's a pasuk for that too. Don't think a small snail is insignificant and there's no issue of Avodah Zarah. Go look at the second part of that pasuk. You learn the snail there. The sanya ashabaretz, down in the land, down on the earth. L'rabis yamim unharis har mikvois. Don't worship any of those bodies of waters, seas, rivers, mountains, hills. The word mitachas covers even a snail. L'rabis shel kant. Right? So perhaps this brisa is merely speaking about it's warning against worshipping these various elements and powers. But again, fashioning a model of a sun and a moon, perhaps that's okay, because it's not the exact size. It's not something that you could replicate in the exact size. It's not that quadruple chayes hakodesh. It's not a person, right? It's not malachim. That'll be okay. Ask the Gemara, no, but it's not okay. And to just manufacture these models of the sun and the moon, is that permitted? Tanya. Here comes the punchline. The brisa says leisasun et, and this brisa is clearly articulated. It covers even the sun and the moon. Leisasun kedmus shamash. Don't formulate anything that replicates, that represents shamashai hamashamshin lefanai b'moraim. Those who serve me in the heavens, kigayin, here goes a list. Chamo levanu chamazalai, sun and the moon and stars. So how could Rabbi Gamaliel have these models of the moon? He writes, says the Gemara, one is not allowed to draw these things. By the way, Rav Moshe Feinstein writes about small kids drawing images of the sun and the moon. He says, they shouldn't get them to do it because of chinuch issues they're going to get accustomed to. Because he says technically, if it doesn't really look like a sun on the moon, it's not an issue. It has to be something that really resembles, that an adult would recognize it as a picture of a sun and a moon. That you can't do. Very interesting. That you cannot do. A person may not draw a sun or a moon. And it seems from this Gemara that even if it's just a partial, like a sliver of a moon, that's what we see. We never see the full, right? That would be included in this Isser. But just a rough sketch, a sloppy baby kid drawing wouldn't be an issue. But he says you should train them, right, for adulthood, that these things are not meant to be drawn. So that's regarding by the way, the celestial bodies. Regarding an Adam, so the Rambam actually says in the Shulchan Aruch Paschals like that it's only an issue if it's a bust, of like a three-dimensional, something which is more protruding than just a flat. It has to have essence to it. It has to have body to it. Like the wax, figures you have in the wax museums. So a Yid is not allowed to make that. I mean, if a guy has it, if there's you can visit a Geisha wax museum because you're not making it. You're not worshiping it, you're not making it. The Isser is to manufacture these things, but a Yid is not allowed to manufacture these things. Okay, in any case, so how could he allow himself those Shani Rav Gamliel Dachirim Osulai? The answer is he didn't make it himself. He asked others, Goyim. He instructed Goyim to make it for him. So Taisus asks, what about Amir La'akam? Just like you can't request of a guy to do a malacha for you on Shabbos, you can't ask him to do any Isser for you. So how could you ask him to produce this illegal model? Stasis says the mitzvah shani is for the sake of a mitzvah, and apparently because doing it through a guy would be a Issa D'Rabbanan, and if it's in a mitzvah context for the purpose of a mitzvah, like being used for the bezdin of Kiddush HaChodesh, then it was permissible to do it through a guy. Asks the Gemara, Rav Yehuda, we have a story about Rav Yehuda. Dachirim Osulai. He also had some sort of form that was produced by Goyim. Shmuel turned to Rav Yehuda. He says, Shinana, sharp one. It was a complimentary term. Sami Eini Diden. You have this ring which featured like a human form on it. Disfigure the eye. Sami, blind the eye. Disfigure it. You can't wear it like that. But he didn't make it. What's the big deal? Hasam b'chasame boilet. Says the Gemara. The issue there was that the image on his signet was protruding, was 3D, was sticking out. Musham chashada. The issue is not the making of it. The issue is because it was made by a guy. The issue is because he's wearing it and it appears like he's walking around with this symbol, with this image, with this idol-like looking thing, which people might misconstrue as Avodah Zarah. Right? So they might think that he's committed, he's bound to this power, he's worshipping this image. The Sanya, we find the Brisa that expresses this type of concern. Tabas, we have a signet, Shechaisama Boilet, with its image protruding. Also, one may not wear it for this reason. Of Chashad, you can pick it up occasionally, just sign with it, stamp with it, seal with it, because you realize if it's protruding on the ring, then it's inverted on the wax. That's okay, because there's no image being produced. No, protruding image. Chaisama Sheikeya. What if the signet features this, this form, this human image, whatever, inverted in the signet? Then it goes the other way. Mutal anicha, you can wear it because there's no tangible image. Vas lachtama, you can't seal with it, because then what's happening? You're pressing in the wax on all sides and sort of producing this protruding image, which appears like an Avodah Zarah issue. So that explained why Shmuel discouraged Rav Yehuda from using this. He told me, this figure, this image, lest it appear like he's courting Avodah Zarah. Asks the Gemara, since when are we concerned that if a person has an image or a statue that it's considered Avodah Zarah, why would anybody suspect of Avodah Zarah involvement? We have this famous shul that was in Bavel, in Harda. It was called the Shav v'Yasif. Rashi explains, Shav means it was relocated, v'Yasif, and reestablished. Bin Harda. And what happened was that, according to the second Pshat in Rashi, Yechanya and his entourage, when they left Eretz Yisrael in Golus, they took with them a souvenir, very, very precious souvenirs, me'avna Yerushalayim me'afara, stones and earth of Yerushalayim. They transported it with them to Bavel. And when it came time to reestablishing themselves and taking root and rebuilding their shul, they used it. They used that material to whether to set the foundation or whatever. They put it into the new shul. Amazing. They built a shul in Bavel using some material from Eretz Yisrael. In any case, that's why it was called Shaf v'Yasif. It was relocated to Bavel. So what happened in that shul? It was a time of Gezerah, and the guy enforced them to place a statue in a monument of some sort in the shul. The Oikmibei Andarta. So the guy enforced them to put this Andarta, this statue, this bust in the shul. And do you think they stopped using the shul? No. Everybody went into daven. They went into daven the shul. Nobody concerned about people suspecting them of worshiping idols. They knew that the chashta, right? So apparently chashad is not a concern. Rabbim Shani. Well, we're speaking about a public, a multitude of people. Nobody would suspect the multitude, the rabbim, the crowd, of worshiping idols. So chashad is not a concern in a public setting, but is in a private setting. Rabbim Shani. Ask the Gemara, hold it. But let's go back to Rav Gamliel with those moon-shaped figures. He was just one person on his own. So why does that not pose a chashad concern? People might suspect him of being involved in Avodah Zarah. The answer is Kiva de Nasi Hava, since he was the head of the Bez, Nasiu, Shchichi Ram Gabei, people would generally milling and coming, and it was considered a public setting. Another way to answer this issue of chashad, the frakim havoi, it wasn't always situated, sitting there it was the prakim havoi. It was made of sections, which came apart. He would collapse the models and only put them together as per need. Once a month when he had to question his witnesses. So it wasn't there all the time. In which case, it was clear to all that it was just functioning as a temporary display for the Eidim. Says the Gemara, here comes another approach, another possible solution to your original question. How could Rav Gamliel make these models? So we had a terrorist that was done through a guy, but let's say he did it himself. How do you account for the isra of making these things? L'Islamid Shani. The answer is it wasn't of personal use. It was meant L'Islamid. to study and to as part of the process of Kiddush HaChodesh. So it had a Torah-oriented purpose, and that's very different. The Sanya, as the Brisa learns, one is not meant to study the ways of idol worship if the purpose is to adopt those elements. But one is allowed to study these things if it's for a higher purpose, a higher goal. Lahavin is to learn and to teach, like in the story of Ram Gamliel, had a higher purpose in order to help them arrive at clarity in terms of Kiddush HaChodesh. Okay, so just for a brief recap in terms of Lo Yisasun Iti, one is not allowed to manufacture things which are modeled after things that servants of Hashem. So what does that cover? So firstly, it covers a building shouldn't have the same dimension as the Heichal, as the Azara, as the Ulam, right? Utensils, a table, a menorah, all these things cannot be replicated the way they were in the Beis HaMikdash. A tzuras Adam may not be made, right? Human face, human bust. Likewise, that quadruple entity, the Demus Dalet Panim, Pnei Shor Adam Arya Nesher all together, is not allowed. By the way, Moshe Feinstein writes about the American flag, which has that eagle, little eagle sculpture on top of the flagpole. So that's okay, because even though it's a Nesher, but it's a Nesher on its own, it's not together with the Shor Adam and Arya. Likewise, a person can't even draw images which resemble malachim and etc., or things which appear like the chama, kechavim, and mazalas. But again, that's only if you make it yourself. But if it was done through others, a guy, whatever, it's okay to own and to look at. Yep. Okay, continues the Gemara. Okay, so the Mishnah says like this. He found this item, this kli, this pot, whatever, that has some sort of image on it. An image of the sun, the moon, or a darkoin, indicates Avodah Zarah, keep away. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel differentiates between the image that was discovered on something which is called mechubaden, respectable items, which are problematic, for concern that they are Avodah Zarah, but she'ala mevuzin mutar, find them on something which is mevuzah, something mundane, something which doesn't really serve any honor to Avodah Zarah, then it's just an image for adornment purposes. It doesn't represent anything beyond that. So how do we classify? What's considered honorable? What is considered dishonorable? Amarav. Within the same utensil, it depends where it is. So you have this pot. So mechabadun would mean l'mala min hamayim if the image was found above the water level, meaning on the handle, on the on the outside. That's problematic. Mebuzin means l'mata min hamayim. If you found the image within the water level, meaning within the pot where the food and the material sits, that's not a place for Avodah Zarah imaging. Shmuel disagrees. He says Elohin mebuzin, if it's sitting on a pot, it's dishonorable regardless of location. Elohin mechubad, what's considered mechubad? Shal hasherin. If it's sitting on a piece of jewelry, al sherin, or the necklaces, al nazamim, earrings, nose rings, al tabayis rings, that's called mechubad, and that's problematic. Tanya, Kabbalah Shmuel, we find the Brisa in support of Shmuel and his definition of mechubaden. She'al sherin, al nazamim, al tabayis, that's considered mechubad. Mevuzin means on pots and pans of everyday use. Shal hayeres, big pots, shal kumasin on small pots, on water kettles, sadinin on sheets, on towels. They're just images for adornment purposes, deemed benign and not Avodah Zarah related. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.